Okay guys, let's go over the two bones that makes up the shoulder girdle. We have the clavicle and the scapula. So first let's just identify a few features on the clavicle. Okay, if you turn into your brief atlas, your quick guide on page 34, you're going to be responsible for number 1, 2, 4, and 5. Okay, so now let's identify number 1. Number 1 is the acromial end, and this is called the acromial end because this feature here articulates with the acromion process of the scapula. And then we have number 4, which is the sternal end. This big, broad, flat piece, well, not so flat, but this broad piece is what articulates with the sternum. So here we have, again, number 1, the acromial end, and number 4 in your book, the sternal end. Now let's look at number 2, the articular surface for the acromioclavicular joint. Now if you look at the clavicle, we have this flat piece right here. This is the articular surface on the clavicle. Now if I get the scapula, we have a flat piece right here on the scapula. You bring these two articular surfaces together and you have the clavicle and you have the acromion process. So guys, that make the acromioclavicular joint, aka AC joint. Now let's talk about one more joint. If you look at number 5 in your book, it's the articular surface for the sternoclavicular joint. So this end, the sternal end of the clavicle, articulates with the sternum to make the sternoclavicular joint, aka we can say SC joint. Okay, so now guys, let's identify the second bone that makes up the shoulder girdle, the scapula. So this can be found in your brief atlas guide on page 33. So the features that you will not be responsible for are numbers 2, 3, 13, 15, and 17. So again, the features that you will not be responsible for are numbers 2, 3, 13, 15, and 17. Now let's identify, first I want to identify the borders of the scapula. So if you look at number 5 in your book, here we have the superior border of the scapula. Then guys, if you come here to the smooth surface where there's no features on this side except the border, this is the medial border, also known as the vertebral border. Why? Because it's near the spinal column or the vertebrae. The next border that I want to identify is the lateral border, also known as the axillary border. Why? Because it's near the axilla, near your armpit. And one way to identify that is if I place the head of the humerus here, it will articulate with this feature right here, and this area right in here would be the armpit. So again, this border here is the lateral border or the axillary border. Now, guys, another area that I want to identify is this inferior area right here. So here you can find the inferior angle. So again, guys, we have the superior border, this little peak right here, the superior angle. We have the medial border, also known as the vertebral border. We have the lateral border that's near that armpit, the axilla or the axillary border. And then finally, guys, we have the inferior angle. Now, let's continue. I'm going to go by the numbers in your book to identify the rest of the features on the scapula. So let's look at number 1. Number 1, guys, in your book says acromion. But when you identify it on the practical, I want you to say acromion process. So here we have the acromion process. And by the way, guys, this here is an anterior view of the scapula because you have this big concave area right here and there's no spine, so this is an indicator to let you know that you're looking at the anterior view of the scapula. Now guys, let's look at number 4. this little caved in notch right here is called the suprascapular notch. Going on to number 5, again, you already know this, the superior border. Looking at number 6, the superior angle. Going to number 7, the medial border, also known as what border, Jeanette? The vertebral border.
Vertebral border?
Yes, ma'am. Going to number 8, the inferior angle. Going to number 9, the lateral border, also known as what border, Randy?
Auxiliary?
Correct, sir. The axillary border. Now, guys, let's look at number 10. Number 10 is the infraglenoid tubercle. Number 11 is the glenoid cavity or the glenoid fossa. And then if you come above for number 12, it's the supraglenoid tubercle. So let me turn it this way, guys, a little bit. So now, guys, here once again, this feature right here, this is the glenoid cavity, the glenoid fossa. This articulates with the head of the humerus. Remember your direction, guys. So this tubercle on top is the supraglenoid tubercle, and then this tubercle on the bottom is the infraglenoid tubercle. And those features were number 10, 11, and 12. Now, guys, you still see an anterior view of the scapula. If you look at number 14 in your book, all of this surface right here is the subscapular fossa. And this here is what's going to house, when we get to muscles, the subscapularis muscle. Okay, now let's turn the scapula to a posterior view. And if you look in your book, guys, I want to look at number 18. Number 18, this is the spine of the scapula. The spine of the scapula. This is one feature right here is what will indicate that you're looking at the posterior view of the scapula. Now, if you go to number 19 in your book, this is the supraspinous fossa above the spine, and this is the infraspinous fossa below the spine. Okay, the supraspinous fossa, that's going to house the supraspinatus muscle, and the infraspinous fossa below the spine, that's going to house the infraspinatus muscle when we get there. And then one more feature, guys, I got to turn back to the anterior view. Number 20 in your book. This here is the coracoid process. So now, guys, let's recap. I'm going to recap really quickly. Number 1, this is going to be the acromion process. Number 4, this is going to be the suprascapular notch. Number 5, the superior border. Number 6, the superior angle. Number 7, the medial border or the vertebral border. Number 8, the inferior angle. Number 9, the lateral border or the axillary border. And then number 10, the infraglenoid tubercle. Number 11, the glenoid fossa or glenoid cavity. Number 12, the supraglenoid tubercle. Okay, number 14, the subscapular fossa. Turn into a posterior view. Number 16, the infraspinous fossa. Number 18, the spine of the scapula. Number 19, the supraspinous fossa. And finally, looking at an anterior view, number 20, the coracoid process. And that's the second bone of the shoulder girdle.